Eric Grant here. We have a customer that writes, building a new Dodger with laces using a 1.5 double fold, and I looked at a video for the 90-degree mitered corner, which we already have posted, which is a great video for doing a double hem with a 90-degree mitered corner. So we'll put a link in the description for that. But what he wants to do is he's looked online to no avail to do a mitered corner with a different angle. And I looked online as well. There's nothing out there, so this is going to be a video to show you exactly how to do it. Oh, he does say, by the way, I love my LSE and I've had it for quite a few years. A couple of years ago, he bought the Worker Bee and he said, what a difference. So let's get started and show you how to do a double fold miter corner with a different angle. This guy wanted 60 degrees. That's what we're going to do, but it works for any angle. This is a 12 by 12 square of Sattler marine grade fabric, and I'm going to use my protractor and put it on the dot in the middle, which is 90 degrees up, and I'm going to find 60 degrees, which is right there, and mark it with my chalk pencil. Then I'm going to take my clear acrylic ruler and go from the corner to the 60 degrees, so we have a 60-degree corner, and I'm just going to mark this sample piece, and I'll go ahead and cut it. So this is the corner that he has, and it could be any angle. The process will work for any angled fabric. Okay, so now he wanted a 1.5 inch double hem. So we're going to take the clear acrylic ruler, 1.5 times 2 is 3, and along this edge of the canvas, whether it be a sail shade or a Dodger or a Bimini, we'll mark it at 3 inches. And then we'll come up 1.5 inches, because that's the finishing result for the double hem, and we will mark it there as well across here. Then we're going to do the exact same thing here, 3 inches and mark it, and then 1.5 inches and mark it. Now I'm going to take our double-sided tape. This is an acrylic glue, so it's really very sticky for acrylic fabric like Sattler or Sunbrella. We're going to put it on this edge, and we're going to put it on this edge. And I didn't explain that, I did use the Serite Canvas patterning ruler to adhere it well, because as you know, acrylic fabric, or this fabric, is very stain and mildew and dirt resistant, and because of that, glues don't like to stick, so that helps. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to fold this to the 3-inch line. I'm also going to peel this off because this is going to get folded under, and we're going to go up here like this, right to the 3-inch line, which creates the first single fold, and we're going to crease it well and stick it well. Don't do the second fold yet. So then do this one, leave the scrap fabric on the end, and crease it well. Now, no matter what your angle is, you find the corner and you use the clear acrylic ruler or anything that has a 90-degree edge, and you put it right on the corner, and then you take your chalk and you mark it. Now that's a little bit off, but it's going to be close enough because obviously our chalk is a little bit bigger. Then we go to this corner over here, and we put it on this corner to mark it right on the corner and mark it here. Okay. Now if you use your protractor, which you don't have to do, but if you put the protractor dot on that point right here along this edge, what do we get? Half of 60 is 30. And that would be the same thing over here. Half of 60 is 30. So this is perfect. So now what we do is we fold this with the lines on the outside, and we want to find the point here at the end. So this is a stiff fabric. It's a lot easier with lighter fabrics, that's for sure. And you fold it right along this bottom edge so the folds are directly on top of each other. And sometimes what I do is I use a mallet, and I actually, where it's stiff, I just pound it, and then I'll just use this and go over it like that. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to sew from here, well actually from here all the way over to here, and these lines should be directly on top of each other, this line and that line, and they are. So let's take it to the machine. It's important to reduce the stitch length. I like to put it around 3 millimeters, and I did the same thing with reverse. We're going to start here at the folded edge, and we're going to sew, and I'm going to turn down the worker bee so that we get really slow speed control, because I want to be accurate with this. And I want to be right on top of that line, and I want to do a little bit of reversing here, because this is going to come under some stress. So I shouldn't say a little bit, I want to do quite a bit. Going off the fabric is okay. Okay, so that's good. And then we're going to sew slowly, but I'm going to stop about 1 millimeter from the end of this line here, and that makes for a better looking point. So that's almost 1 millimeter. I'm going to go a little bit more and use my reverse lever to go a teeny bit more, and then I'm going to reverse heavily here, but not go too far back. Okay, so let's take this out, and you can see that we are 1 millimeter or 2 from that end, which is good, and we've stitched all the way across. Okay. So now what I'll do is I'll take my scissors right here on this point, and what I want to do is I want to cut basically perpendicular to this edge down here. So I'm going to go right at the point, and I'm going to cut perpendicular. Doesn't have to be very deep, but I'll just cut it off. Okay, then I want to cut this direction. This will reduce the bulk at the corner about 1/4 inch away from the stitch, which will reduce all that bulk at the corner. If you were doing a double fold without a mitered corner, you get way too much bulk. Okay, let's take it back to the table. So before I do anything else, this is an extra step, but it does make for a pretty nice application. I'm going to roll this over so that I can splay this open and just hit it with a hammer. And I'm going to move my finger over here and hit that. And hopefully when we're done, this will splay open like a butterfly. And we'll do the same thing to this side. Okay, now here comes the hard part. So see, that wants to splay open like that, so it'll lay flatter. What we have to do now is we have to turn this right side out. But before we do that, I'm going to put double-sided tape on here so that I can baste it down, because this is probably a very long piece and you'd want to do this all the way down your length. This is just a sample. Double-sided tape here, all the way down this side, and then use this to baste it down well. Okay, don't peel off the transfer paper. Now we got to stick our finger in here, and we got to push this through. So it goes through like this. And this is stiff. So much easier with lighter fabric, but I wanted to show the heavy fabric because that's most of our customers are dealing with that. I usually take a screwdriver and I poke it in the end here, and what I want to see is I want to see that stitch. So I have to poke this through until I get it to come out pointy, and I need to see the stitch up here. And that we reduce the stitch length so that we'd make it would look better when this is done. So I'm going to keep poking. I'll show you what it looks like when we're done. It does take some time. This is the hardest part. Okay, I think we have it poked out pretty good there, and I can see the stitch in the top just lightly. And now I'm going to put my finger in here and I'm going to splay that assembly apart that we kind of hammered it so that it would lay flat. So I'm trying to get it to lay flat before I do my next step with my finger. That's pretty good right there. It's flat. I'm going to take my mallet and I'm going to create some memory in it. There, that reduced the bulk greatly. Now look at this. This is falling almost perfectly on our lines. Remember, our lines weren't perfect because the chalk is fatter than the ruler. I'm going to peel off the transfer paper, and this on this side, and then on this side, so we can pre-baste this. This is the double hem that we're creating now, and if everything's done right, it should be really close to the line, which it is. Crease it down well with the Serite canvas patterning ruler, because canvas has a memory, and we're really close to that line. Now if we measure this, what we should get is a 1.5 inch hem, and look at that. We are very, very close to 1.5 inches. Let's take it to the machine and sew it. Okay, I moved my needle to the left, and I've also increased my stitch length to 6 millimeters. So we're going to sew really close to this folded edge. I'm going to turn up the worker bee because I don't need it to go slow. just do some reversing here, even though this is sample. When we get to the mitered corner, we want to bury our needle in the actual miter itself to pivot on the turn. So I'm going to do this by hand with the balance wheel, rolling it around, and use the reverse lever. I think we're right in that miter. Needle's coming up, lift my foot, pivot on the buried needle, sew down this side. Okay, now we could do a second stitch if you'd like, but this would finish it. You could do another stitch here, and you'd bury it there, and you'd sew down here. That is our 60-degree double hem mitered corner. So you can put fasteners in this easily, because that 9 layers that would have been in this is reduced down greatly. This is the one we completed with a single stitch. This one has a stitch on the outside, probably looks more professional. We put our protractor on the corner, and what do we get? We get 60 degrees, just like we wanted. Okay, so now that you know how to do that, you need to make sure that you add enough material to the finished size to create the double hem. We used a 1.5-inch hem here twice, which means we need to add 3 inches here, 1.5-inch double hem here, 3 inches here, and then you would get your exact finished size.
Want to see more? Be sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching.